today. Um, Actually, this was a show that I do on the side called For Love and Play, which is a relationship podcast. I thought for this episode I would interview my friend Christie about dealing with toxic people, dealing with stalking. Because but it turned out that it wasn't the proper format for this podcast. So I said, fuck it, let me put it on Crotch Shot Radio so that way people could listen to her story and, learn and hopefully avoid it and help her out in her struggle. So without further ado, I present to you an episode of For Love and Play on the Crotch Shot Radio Show. Yeah, this is my friend Christy Aphrodite. We actually met under interesting circumstances. I was on another internet radio show, and I'm not gonna mention the dude's name because it's not important. Uh,
But it
but
was one that I was previously on, you might want to mention.
yeah, she was used to be on this show, and the dude, um, Christy's a very attractive woman, and so attractive that when she tells someone no, certain people get a little upset. So he started stalking her and making her life a living hell, and trying to call child protective services on her to get her kids taken away. So I was as a lot. I've mentioned this before on the show. I was a member of a 9/11 Truth group called We Are Change. So I was starting my own like Spanish language chapter, and I was told that if I went on this guy's show, it would help me get it off the ground and whatnot. So I started doing like production on his show, like little radio skits and stuff, like Patriot, leaning towards like Patriot stuff, and like he told me about Christie, saying that she was trying to destroy the group that I was a part of, and that I should go call into her show and call her out. Well, that's what I did. I called up on her show, and what ended up happening was she laughed at my face.
Was it like that?
Yep.
Pretty much.
So then I get to talking to her, and the strangest thing happened. I was like, oh shit, she's telling the truth, and this dude's been lying to me.
Oh man.
So
Yeah, that is what happened. He kind of, yeah. So Louis was basically one of the guys that were recruited in what is referred to as gang stalking, and that's where multiple people are involved in, the attacks, whether they're slander. I mean, the number one goal, of course, is ostracization, and of gang stalking in particular. And there are many types of stalking. I don't know if I should just start talking about that right now.
Well, actually, that is a perfect lead-in because that is the topic for our show today. And the listeners always know I like to tell the topic up front. We're talking about stalkers.
All right. Okay. Well, I just want to say, I am, and I hate the word victim, but whatever, for purposes of conversation, I have been targeted as a victim of gang stalking. And the gentleman, I use the term loosely, that tried to recruit Louis into being one of those stalkers okay, so let me get into the different types, because there's individual stalkers, there's all different types. There's the rejected stalker, the one that, they're mad because you broke up with them, and, they're so codependent, or how are they going to go on with their life, and then you have the predatory stalker that, and sometimes that includes rape or even gang rape. But these people, they do more, they call the shots. They're kind of like the dude that tried to recruit Louis. And that was not the only guy that tried to recruit Louis, by the way, because the story gets bigger. This guy was actually associated with other people. But yeah, so the predatory stalker, I think, would be that's more of the gang stalker type. Then you have like the intimacy seeker that, they're just in love with you. And usually it's lust and they're, probably have some self-esteem issues and usually not as dangerous. But then you have the incompetent suitor in regards to relationships. And they feel that if they can't get close to their target or their target, that they usually stalk their acquaintances and strangers or people by trying to get information about their target. And then, of course, the morbidly infatuated stalker, which is all kind of the same thing. And, they all stem from different issues. But the truth is, people from all walks of life can be a stalker. And I know that in our society, we are taught that the poor is the cause of all of our problems. Those destitute, homeless, sick people are out to get you. They're going to jump out of a bush and stalk you and rape you and do all these things, when in reality, it's the exact opposite. And, just to make a quick point on that subject, when do you hear of homeless people hurting other people?
Not often.
You don't.
Not often.
Yeah, well, all right. Yeah, well, they don't, because for stalking, at least predatory stalking, what I want to focus on here today, because that's what I've been targeted by, you need support networks. Think about this in America. One poor person commits a crime or doesn't even commit a crime, and they're in prison. But if you have money, you can do anything. And, just to kind of paint a bigger, so I want to paint a bigger picture that will also at least give you insight into the types of characters involved in this, such as, Louis and I, we'll call him mutual friend, and the rest of the network. But how this started was I exposed a sex trafficking ring that was run by the cops. And I literally have it all on video. I posted it all online. And next thing I know, I'm a racist. I'm a child abuser. I'm getting my pets killed and left on my porch, my house robbed, my bank account empty, my house lit on fire, my tires slashed, my car totaled in my driveway, like all of these crazy things. And at the same time, of course, the slander, the defamation, all of these stories to scare people away from me. Now, these videos, anybody can go see them online right now. You will see cops refusing to act. You will see people getting shot at and cops saying it didn't happen. There's even videos of me getting beat over the head with sticks by a mob with 8 cops standing there saying it didn't happen. Okay, well, that's easy, because I was a single mother, poor, disabled. I'm somebody that nobody cares about. I don't have family. I don't have a network. I'm just a chick that won't shut up, right? They offered to pay me to shut up back in the day. They even offered me a job to try to get me to shut up. Okay.
Who did? The police? Or
no, not the police. An agency involved in trafficking children.
So the agency themselves, not law enforcement. We just have to make that very clear to our listeners, that we are talking about the agency involved in the crime, not the police.
Well, okay, I'll just say this. Of all the people that are aware of and were supposedly investigating this sex trafficking ring, look, it took a little girl in braids with a camera to walk down the hill and videotape all this. But so of all the agencies that were involved in that, and then you can pick and choose who did what, but it was local police, it was sheriff, it was DHS, Department of Homeland Security, it was INS, it was FBI, and those are just the agencies that I know of for personal experience that were involved in the execution and or cover-up.
Gotcha.
So, okay, yeah, so that's where the guy that I was on the radio show, that's how all of this happened. So he invites me on the show, then pretends to be my friend, and he wants to protect me, right? That's what narcissists do. They always want to be the hero, or portray themselves as the rescuer. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Again, so for people to really understand predatory gang stalking, you need to understand the structure and the network. It's not some random poor person on the street playing games. These are people in positions that you would never, ever, ever suspect. Nobody in their life even knows. They live a normal life, usually, they cushy jobs, and, a lot of times they volunteer in causes that they pretend to be against, but what they're actually doing is collecting more targets. For example, in the gang stalking world, allegedly there's supposedly 6 to 8 million victims worldwide. Well, they create all these groups because they're going to help the gang stalking victims, right? Or give them a support network or somebody to talk to. But what happens is these groups are run by that criminal network themselves. So the people that we are venting to, that we think we can trust, that are going to help us or whatever, they're actually keeping tabs on us and furthering the harm and abuse. So, and this goes on. I just want to caution people, if you are an activist of any kind, it doesn't matter, pro, con, pick an issue. They are all run by the same people. And the more effective you are, the ones that cannot be controlled, that see outside of the box they want you in, you have a chance. Yeah. So you have a chance of being targeted, and especially women activists.
So that's kind of why I wanted to really have you and Yael dominate this conversation, because the topic came about as a man. There's certain things in this world that we enjoy, and some would say there's a privilege to it, of not even being aware of certain threats that happen in dating, just happen in real life. And I was telling Yael about a personal story when it kind of started to open my eyes. I was shopping for a house to buy, right? And being a single male looking for a house, I wanted to bring one of my female friends along with me to get a feminine opinion, because I probably was going to end up buying a house in some type of dark cave somewhere with no tree. You know what I mean? Like, it was just going to be a real utilitarian type house. And I wanted to have some type of warmth, because who knew how quickly my life might change later on. So I just wanted to bring a female friend. And we were going to one of these houses, and the windows were low. Now, I liked the outside of the house. It looked very nice. We walked up. It looked nice. The living room that you entered into was nice. All of this was nice to me. And she made a comment of saying, "Oh, no, I could never live here because of how low the windows were on the floor." And I was like, "Wait, why would that make a difference?" She was like, "I'd just be afraid that someone would come in and rape me, like, every night." And I was like, "You really just go around life looking at like how there could be a rapist?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was honestly shocked. I was at that, right there with the real estate agent, everything. I had this conversation with her, like, you really go around life looking at these things with the potential threat of rape? Like,
We have
it's
to.
gotta be so rare. And even the real estate agent, who was a woman, kind of jumped in on the conversation, and she was like, "Yeah, you kind of have to." And so that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then Yael called me for a certain situation where we talked about, we've talked about it on the podcast before.
Creepy.
About a creepy situation online.
Okay,
and
Cupid.
When she called me, because of this prior experience, the shock wasn't necessarily there, but it was also another realization of,
Remember, I even asked you during that phone call. I said, Keenan, am I overreacting?
right,
You know what I mean? I was like, because I'm uncomfortable by this, and like for those of you who listen to the show, if I'm a little bit less than a delicate flower. I mean, usually North Korean, the Mossad. I'm asked about my training in the Israeli military. I don't have any, but that's the assumption. You get what I mean. So you make me nervous, girl. You know, I'm scared of nothing, but if I'm scared of something, it's coming from a deeper meaning of place. It's not. I don't scare or scare off easily. So for something to even touch that almost unforsaken pool of fear, it's real. Because for me, if I pull the fire drill, there's a fire. There is no smoke. There's a real fire, and we're coming to put it out, and that's the end of it.
Even that sentiment of feeling like you're the type of person who doesn't scare easily.
Oh, hell no.
And means that where there's smoke, there's potentially fire. Even that whole sentiment is kind of part of the overall issue and problem that we have in today's society, is that even her coming to me as a friend, she had a thought in her mind that it could potentially be overreacting. And that's something that I want to kind of uncover, because just that thought means that there's some women, there's some people, there's some potential victim who has that thought and doesn't go say something.
Right.
Right?
It's because we're not heard. It's the whole blame the victim thing that our society is based on. That's the problem. Look, I have been raped and gang raped and sodomized more than once. My daughter, even at 3 years old, raped, sodomized, but never once have I ever seen justice. And what's even worse is what I see when you do go for help. True victims get re-victimized. And for example, we'll just use my daughter. When she was raped and sodomized, they raped and sodomized her again just to prove that she was, because, they had to stick cameras up her pee-pee and her bum-bum just to prove it. And, yeah, the guy pled guilty, but, hey, he was connected. His mom's a cop. He was, sleeping with the judge, and, it was one of those things. So even though he pled guilty, absolutely nothing happened to him, except he was given services like Big Brother program and this and that. And me and my children, as a single disabled mother, were left in the dust. And not only that, we were even scrutinized as if it was my fault that my daughter was raped and sodomized, while I was paying these people to babysit my children on Sundays. I lived in Utah. Daycare wasn't open on Sundays. So I was working for $2.13 an hour, paying people to rape my children, and it's my fault. That's why victims can't come forward, because we've already got it. You from the time I was a child. The first time I had an issue, I have a cop feeling me up and sticking his hand in my mother's house. Oh, are you sure you didn't hide your wallet there? Yeah, that was after I just got robbed. And he's going to be such a nice guy and take me home safely, right? Yeah, and feeling me up in my mom's house in the dark and trying to, So again, no help. My house was robbed twice in a week, no help. My bank account was broken into and stolen and never to be replaced again, no help. My car totaled, no help. My car lit on fire, no help. The stalking, the death threats, the things that happened right in front of their eyes and on video, no help. That is why we can't come forward, Keenan.
Yeah, I mean, that is part of why I'm trying to illuminate this, is because there is a society that comes out and says, all right, you have some things that happen, and then there's repeated incidents. It's like the question goes, what are you personally doing to attract all of these bad things?
Yeah, see, that's more the blame the victim crap.
Right.
Nobody says why. You know what I mean? You're always blamed. From the time I was a child, the first time I got gang raped, I was blamed. And, and it's like, and even with the stalking issue, oh, Christie, what are you doing to bring it on? Oh, let's see, dying of a brain infection a few times in the last couple years, trying to learn to walk and talk again, regain my memory, trying to earn enough money to buy toilet paper so I can wipe my butt. I mean, if you read my site or whatever you did, then there is no new content. Even my True Essence, it hasn't been updated till maybe 2013 or since 2013.
This site?
MyTrueEssence.net is my urban holistic health coaching and such. But see, this is getting into the effects of the predatory gang stalking. I'm not online. I'm not running my businesses anymore. I can't. I've been living out of my car. Yeah, and so getting back to the stalking and the different types, and that is the goal, to isolate their victim, have them ostracized, have them completely destitute. And when I look back at the timeline of how everything happened, that's exactly how it happened. First, they robbed my heirlooms. Then they robbed my bank account. Then they lit the house on fire, killed the pets. And all the death threats and stuff were in there. But when I didn't back down or shut up or whatever, then the other stuff started happening, the slander, and oh, she's not going to go away, so we better turn her into a boogeyman. And so yeah, I really think it's important, and I don't want to really sound alarmist either. This doesn't happen to everybody. Not everybody's going to be stalked. Not everybody's going to be raped. And I do think that there is an element of paranoia. Like, oh my God, as you mentioned before the show, oh, if you text somebody 3 times, it's called stalking. See, I like the fact that the awareness of these topics are out there, but the double-edged sword of that is that anytime somebody says something you don't like, or you say no, or whatever, then you're a stalker, then you're a racist, then you're an abuser, then you're a psychopath, then you're, because everybody's a psychologist and able to diagnose people's mental conditions, strangers from afar on the internet.
That is
so we can't.
That is definitely one of the biggest side effects of the internet right now, is that the world of public opinion has gotten to be so large that even court systems can't even protect you from whatever the letter of the law is.
Yeah.
And
No.
what picks up steam is what ends up being the perceived truth.
Yeah.
Whatever the majority on the internet is saying, that is now perceived truth, whether that's reality or not. And to your point, like there's just certain things within the system itself of law that creates a problem. One, how justice often tends to be purchased rather than a right.
Yeah.
And there's recent stories that I've gotten into conversations with, and I would love to get your take on that. About one was about how there was a gentleman in jail for rape, and the quote-unquote victim came out 20 years later saying that she lied. And then most recently, there's a basketball player who's playing in the playoffs currently, who had a female cry wolf on domestic violence, right? And she then, like a week later, admitted that she damaged herself and she was trying to get money from the guy. And
what? I mean, vaginally? She
like scratched her face. Like she scratched her face. This one was a domestic violence case. And the two, I'm bringing up these two because it happens on both sides, where there's some people that feel like women that cry wolf should be punished, so that the women that are actually true victims have a system and a place to go when something happens, that they can get justice served. When you have these others that are lying, it's clogging up just administration. If you want to be at the basic level, it clogs up administration for someone who truly needed that. What would be your take on it?
I think it unvalidates. I have a girlfriend that I've been friends with for many moons. She's in another state, so we ain't tight. You know what I mean? But I'll always consider her and her family like an extension of like, extended family. Anyway, this girl went through a period of about 10 years, and we've been friends since we were about 14 years old, and I'm almost 32. So it's an 18-year friendship. She went through about a 10-year period of constant habitual lying. And here's the shittier part. There were actual things laced in between her sexually based lies that could be misconstrued as criminal sexual misconduct. However, she was such a liar, it would be such a gamble to take the appropriate action against any of these people. I'm saying that is something women don't take seriously. Your claims, when you embellish, when you exaggerate, your claims become dick. There is protection of men now more so than ever. Criminals do walk. I just saw something on 2020 that made me want to scream. Teacher had a years-long relationship with a fucking a little boy.
Wow.
And she's getting a year in prison. If she were a 27-year-old man fucking a 14-year-old girl, she'd be going to jail for 5 years. The bottom line is...
Well, it depends. It depends, unless you're part of the club.
Right.
Pedophile's a pedophile, but my point is women have to start taking shit seriously. One thing I wanted to touch on and why I thought this topic was so important, especially to have Christie on with us, is stalking.
Right.
Someone text messaging you 3 times after your date. If you say you are being stalked, I hope someone shoots you. Anybody. Not my
yeah. And to that, Yael.
Oh my God! They read my Facebook page. I'm being stalked. Like, save it.
Right.
Actually,
yeah.
And this is why,
because then they make true victims look crazy.
Yeah.
Like we're just making it up, or we're just we have nothing better to do.
That's exactly what they do.
Right, and to that point, it's like I'm a big.
I get called stalker all the time.
And that exactly, Louis. And that's the thing. It's just.
But who do you get called that by? That's the thing, and that's part of the point of the stalking issues. And I do just want to mention this because you brought up the legal issues and people getting help, and just to make another point about predatory stalkers. There's only one type of person that can hurt other people intentionally, right? Without conscience. And that's psychopath. And that's who the predatory stalkers are. So they are capable. What happens usually, look, the victims, you don't even know what's going on or being planned until they strike. Well, a lot of that they use is through the legal system. So my belief is the people, and this is just through my experience, it doesn't make it always true, but in these types of predatory situations, it's the stalkers themselves that go to the legal system first, make these claims. For example, remember the lawsuit against you and your grandmother, Louis?
Yep.
They're the ones making the claims. The ones stalking you or me are accusing us of what they are. And so, you have 2 choices at this point. You can get mad at the lies or get all butthurt like I did for the first several years. I'm like, oh, my God, how could somebody say this about me? That's so mean and blah, blah, blah. I have to, prove that, it's not true. And then I realized once I figured out how it all works is that whatever they accuse you of is what they are doing. So when they accuse you of something that's not true or has no basis or validity or anything, just say thank you, because they just gave you insight into who they are, what they're doing, and in some cases, what they might be going for next.
One thing I wanted to share.
A lot of. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead. Finish. I didn't realize, please.
Oh, okay. So what I was going to say, and if you look at the timeline of my stalking situation, a lot of the threats and things that were going on were, I don't want to call it prophetic, but kind of predictive programming. So basically, when they started the slander, they would say, oh, Christie's mentally ill and was locked up in all these places and, is a child abuser, blah, blah, blah. Well, then they start filing those reports to have me locked up for being mentally whatever, mentally ill, which these strangers, of course, know, right? Amazing. I'm able to fool all the doctors, but these strangers, individuals from, thousands of miles away, they know. Um, so, oh crap, where was I going with that? Yeah, that's my point. They accuse you of what they are. So that's why we can't get help with the legal system. For example, another situation you know about, Louis, the dude that killed my dog and stole all my stuff and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
You know what was going on there. You talked to him. You have recorded calls. And let me just ask you, what what was going on there?
The dude was nuts. I mean, he kept
He clearly was abusing me,
yeah,
yes
yeah,
or
yeah.
no?
No, he was. He totally was
Yeah.
abusing you.
And
But
we have
like,
the evidence.
it's like
I
I
have
kept
recorded
asking.
conversations
Okay.
of me being right there with him. I have pictures. I have witnesses. But he is the one that strikes first, right? So now I'm the violent abuser, right? I'm mentally ill. I'm trying to hurt him. I'm trying to scam him. But see, when you're a poor, single, destitute woman in a small town, hey, people believe that. Who is this new person? Oh, well, if she's homeless, she must be here to, which I wasn't, actually. I was renting the house and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just using that as kind of an example. They stick with the big guys. They stick with the club, and it's the single people who have a higher percentage chance of being stalked because nobody's going to be there to see what's going on, right? So they get away with it. And these things that they do are methodically addressed and approached because that's one of the goals. They want to drive you insane. And so then later, as part of the predictive programming thing, when you do get locked up for whatever reason, whether it's real or not, they can say, see, I told you she was crazy. Right?
No, absolutely. And I think something that's so interesting that follows into that point is the Jewish community. This is, I think, very, very relevant. The Jewish community, people don't realize that sex abuse, things of this nature, it has always existed in our community. And it's actually, if you take percentages and numbers, it was worse than the Catholic Church. It was not exposed
Wow.
for several years. Oh, yeah. Because if you take a look at it, the Jews as a whole, and the Catholics as a whole, if you were to lump them up into pies, you'd have as the Catholic population a much larger pie than than the Jewish pie. You know what I mean? So if you want to cut up those pies, it was actually a worse. I don't want to say that sex abuse is hellacious, and everyone they should all burn in hell.
Yeah.
I'm saying it is not worse, it is not worse in any community. You get what I'm saying?
It's everywhere, for sure.
Right. For our community.
Yeah, but poor people, single people, men or women, are more likely to be targets than people with big families and networks.
Not in the Jewish communities. Not in the Jewish communities where you have people coming over for Shabbat. You're letting rabbis into your house, strangers, to break to come be festive. These are not homeless people. These are not these are not the people living in the poverty line. These are people with houses. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying they're targeted by the Jewish church or something? Or?
No. I'm saying sex abuse in the Jewish community.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
Many years, rabbis were protecting and relocating pedophiles, etc. One person, one individual, his name is Mayor Seawald. He's the founder of the Jewish Community Watch. It is the only organization ever in the world I would ever open my wallet to. No other organizations. I don't care about the whales and whatever. I care about them.
What do you mean, you whale killer?
My point is, I saw this on my way out of religious Judaism. I saw this on my, kind of like in your rear view mirror as you're on your way out of town. One person rising above ash because his friend was raped and molested his entire life by his father, who was a rabbi in the community, who was a counselor in the community, and they went on a camping trip, and the kid committed suicide because he couldn't take it anymore. And then the floodgate opened, that it wasn't just this kid. The straw that broke the camel's back was
Definitely.
the floodgate opened in the merit of the suicide as an outreach prevention, and the father then molested one of the children that came to the, basically to become part of this activity in merit of his son passing away, etc. So he started this organization.
Or the father's friends. So, yeah, I'm not saying that it's an exclusive homeless issue at all. As an adult, those are the easy targets. But children have been preyed upon by religious and political leaders of all walks of life. And you got to remember, when I was sold to this stuff as a child, I mean, this is my first time being homeless. I always had a house, pretty, middle class, and, never had a problem paying bills or doing what I needed to do. So yeah, it's definitely, that's going on everywhere.
What had to happen. This person said, "All right, I'm gonna get all these cases investigated. I'm gonna get the rabbinical councils that have protected pedophiles and mediated in these situations. I'm gonna go after them." Well, of course, he got shut down in every direction until he found a billionaire. Who was a victim and willing to come public. And now they have an organization. And when I am telling you, in years, I have tears in my eyes.
Wonderful.
What one person can do in 3 years, they have an office in the city. They're changing lives and families. They're putting criminals in prison for their crimes.
I would love to see that, because even
rabbis who have I'm saying this one person. It's like when God needs to send a messenger, he does. To me, this is the story of Passover, because there was such a plague, there was such a sickness in our community. Our children were committing suicide left and right. We didn't have the exposure. We didn't have the exposure the Catholic Church had. And then one person came up and said there will be no more. And when you see what he's done in 3 years, oh my God, there are children who are they're as well as they're ever going to be, because they have therapy now. There are people who deal with these predatory issues that are getting therapy that have never attacked and probably never will attack, because there's finally a forum where they can get help. When the victims come forward, they're believed. I know, because I tried to put one of my husband's victims away, and these people did what no one else did. They believed me, and they tried. And I'm telling you,
nice.
Change is real, but there takes money and power.